One of the moms called me just a dropout babysitter who probably can't even do her own laundry. When I tried to help her choking daughter, she screamed, "Get this dropout off my baby." I didn't say a word. That was 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, she asked if I'd consider being their full-time nanny and started crying when I said no. Parents at a playdate mocked me for being just a babysitter until one of their kids started choking. I'd been babysitting for the Miller family for 2 years when Mrs. Miller asked me to bring her 4-year-old son to a playdate at her friend's house while she was at work. At 19, with tattoos covering my arms and purple streaks in my hair, I looked exactly like what these suburban moms feared most when they thought about who was watching their precious children. But actually, I'd been a certified paramedic for 3 years and had already saved more lives than most people would in their entire lifetime. The host mom, Grace, took one look at me when I walked in with little Jackson and immediately pulled Mrs. Miller's son away from me like I might be contagious. "So you're the babysitter," she said slowly, like I might not understand basic English. "We usually only allow parents or relatives at these playdates, but I suppose we can make an exception just this once." She turned to the other moms and announced loudly that everyone should keep an extra close eye on their children today since we have a situation where proper supervision might be lacking. Another mom approached me while I was helping Jackson take off his shoes and asked if I was still in high school. When I said no, she exchanged knowing looks with Grace and said, "Oh, so you dropped out then? That explains why you're doing this instead of going to college like normal girls your age." Before I could respond, she was already telling the others about the epidemic of teenage dropouts who think raising other people's children is a career path. Grace started questioning me about my credentials while using air quotes around the word. She wanted to know if I'd ever taken a child development class, if I knew CPR, if I understood basic nutrition. When I tried to answer, she cut me off and told the other moms that this was why she always insisted on meeting caregivers first. "You never know what kind of person is being trusted with innocent children these days," she said while staring at my tattoos. "Some people think anyone with a pulse can watch kids." They made me sit in the corner of the living room while the children played, treating me like hired help who shouldn't mingle with the real adults. One mom loudly discussed how her nanny had a degree in early childhood education from Harvard while looking directly at me. "That's the difference between a professional and someone who just needs quick cash," she said. "We invest in people who see childcare as a calling, not teenagers who probably spend the whole time on their phones while the TV babysits." Grace brought out organic snacks for the children and made a point of asking if I even knew what organic meant. When I stayed quiet, she explained to her friends that these types usually fed kids processed junk because they didn't understand the importance of proper nutrition. "She probably gives Jackson McDonald's every day and calls it dinner," she said while I helped the kids open their juice boxes. This is what happens when overwhelmed parents get desperate and hire the first warm body who responds to their ad. They started discussing how much they paid their nannies, making sure I could hear every word about their extensive background checks and reference requirements. One mentioned she'd never hire someone under 25 because teenagers lacked the maturity and life experience to handle emergencies. "Can you imagine trusting someone who probably can't even do their own laundry with your child's life?" she asked while they all laughed. "These girls think babysitting is just easy money until something goes wrong and they panic." Grace decided to test me by asking what I'd do if a child had an allergic reaction. Before I could answer, she was already telling everyone that I probably didn't even know what an EpiPen was. "This is the problem with informal childcare arrangements," she lectured. "No training, no education, just teenagers who think watching their younger siblings makes them qualified to care for other people's children." The latecomer's daughter started coughing while eating grapes, and her mother laughed it off, saying kids always made dramatic noises for attention. The coughing got worse, but she just told her to drink some water and stop being theatrical. Another mom joined in, saying this was why she only gave her kids pre-cut foods, because some parents don't understand basic safety precautions. I watched the little girl's face turn red as she clutched her throat, unable to make any sounds now, and her lips started going blue while the moms continued chatting about their weekend plans. Her mother finally looked over and screamed when she saw her daughter's color, frozen in panic while the child collapsed to her knees. The other mom started shrieking and running around uselessly, with Grace yelling for someone to call